What happens when one of pop music's most unpredictable stars sits down with late-night television's most notorious prankster? Well, you're about to find out, and trust me, this is not the celebrity interview you're expecting. Before we dive into this absolutely wild story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because this one is going to leave you speechless. So picture this. Jimmy Kimmel's studio is buzzing with its usual pre-show energy. The audience is settling into their seats, completely unaware that they're about to witness one of the most explosive moments in late-night television history. Miley Cyrus walks onto the set looking relaxed, wearing a black leather jacket and ripped jeans, her signature confidence radiating as she waves to the crowd. The applause is thunderous, exactly what you'd expect for a pop icon of her caliber. Jimmy greets her with his trademark smile, that mischievous glint already present in his eyes. You know the look, the one that usually signals he's about to pull one of his classic pranks or ask a question that's going to catch his guest completely off guard. They exchange pleasantries, and everything seems normal. Miley settles into the guest chair, crosses her legs, and seems ready for what she probably assumes will be a typical promotional interview. But Jimmy Kimmel has other plans tonight. Instead of starting with the usual softball questions about her latest album or upcoming tour, he leans back in his chair and says something that immediately shifts the entire atmosphere in the room. His tone becomes more serious, more probing, and you can literally see Miley's expression change from relaxed confidence to cautious awareness. "So Miley," Jimmy begins, his voice carrying that deceptively casual tone that regular viewers know means trouble. "I have to ask you about something that's been bothering me for a while now. You've built your entire career on being authentic, on being real with your fans, but there's something about your recent public statements that just doesn't add up." The studio audience, sensing the shift in energy, becomes noticeably quieter. Miley's eyes narrow slightly, and she tilts her head with that defiant look that anyone familiar with her knows means she's not backing down from whatever's coming next. "What exactly are you trying to say, Jimmy?" she responds, her voice steady, but with an edge that wasn't there moments before. Jimmy doesn't back down. Instead, he doubles down, pulling out a stack of papers from his desk. "Well, I've been doing some research, and I found some interesting contradictions between what you've been saying in interviews lately and some of your past statements. It seems like you've been, how should I put this, adjusting your story depending on your audience." The tension in the room becomes palpable. You can actually hear the audience holding their collective breath, sensing that this is not going according to the usual late-night script. Miley straightens up in her chair, her body language becoming more defensive, more guarded. "Jimmy, I'm not sure what you think you've found, but I've always been honest about my journey and my growth as an artist and as a person." But Jimmy isn't finished. He starts reading from the papers, citing specific quotes and dates, comparing statements she made in different interviews. The more he reads, the more uncomfortable Miley becomes, and you can see her jaw tightening with each passing moment. What started as a standard celebrity interview is rapidly transforming into something that feels more like a confrontation, more like an interrogation. "Look," Miley finally interrupts, her voice rising slightly, "I don't know what kind of gotcha journalism you think you're doing here, but this isn't what I signed up for. I came here to talk about my music, not to defend every single thing I've ever said in my entire career." Jimmy leans forward, his expression becoming more intense. "But that's exactly the point, Miley. Your fans deserve to know who you really are, not just the version of yourself that's convenient for whatever project you're promoting at the moment." The audience is completely silent now, sensing that they're witnessing something unprecedented. This isn't the playful banter or harmless pranks that Jimmy Kimmel Live is known for. This is something entirely different. Something that feels dangerously real and increasingly hostile. Miley's composure starts to crack. You can see the frustration building in her eyes, the way her hands clench slightly on the armrests of her chair. "You know what, Jimmy? I've been in this industry since I was a kid, and I've dealt with plenty of people trying to tear me down, trying to make me look bad for their own entertainment. I thought you were different, but apparently I was wrong. The confrontation escalates as Jimmy continues pressing his points, and Miley becomes more and more agitated. What the audience doesn't realize yet is that this is just the beginning, and things are about to get much, much worse. The careful facade of polite celebrity interview etiquette is about to completely shatter, and both host and guest are heading toward a collision that will leave everyone in that studio absolutely stunned. Jimmy doesn't let up. If anything, Miley's defensive response seems to fuel his determination to push even harder. He sets the papers down and looks directly at her, his expression becoming more confrontational than anyone has ever seen him on television. Miley, this isn't about tearing you down. This is about holding you accountable. You have millions of young fans who look up to you, who believe everything you say. And when you contradict yourself this blatantly, what message does that send to them? Miley's eyes flash with anger and she leans forward in her chair, her voice taking on a sharper edge. Don't you dare try to lecture me about my responsibility to my fans. I've been nothing but authentic with them from day one, and I've never pretended to be perfect. People grow, people change, and if you can't understand that, then maybe you're the one with the problem. The studio audience is completely captivated now, watching this verbal sparring match unfold with a mixture of fascination and discomfort. You can hear scattered murmurs rippling through the crowd, people whispering to each other, trying to process what they're witnessing. This is nothing like the scripted, sanitized celebrity interviews they're used to seeing. Jimmy shakes his head, clearly not satisfied with her response. But that's not what this is about, Miley. This isn't about growth or change. These contradictions I'm talking about happened within months of each other, sometimes even weeks. You told one magazine that you were completely sober and focused on your health, and then 3 weeks later, you told another interviewer that you were experimenting with different substances as part of your creative process. Which version is true? Miley's face flushes with anger, and you can see her struggling to maintain her composure. You know what, Jimmy? I don't owe you or anyone else a detailed explanation of every single aspect of my personal life. The fact that you're sitting here trying to catch me in some kind of trap tells me everything I need to know about your character. But Jimmy isn't backing down. In fact, he seems to be enjoying the confrontation, feeding off the energy of the moment. It's not about your personal life, Miley. It's about your public statements, the things you say on record to promote your image and your career. When you can't keep your story straight, it makes people question everything else you've said. Miley stands up abruptly, her chair rolling backward slightly from the force of her movement. The audience gasps audibly, sensing that the situation is spiraling completely out of control. I'm done with this, she declares, her voice loud enough that everyone in the studio can hear the fury in her tone. I came here as a professional, courtesy, to promote my work and connect with my fans, not to be ambushed by some late-night host who thinks he's an investigative journalist. Jimmy remains seated, but his posture becomes more aggressive, more challenging. Sit down, Miley. We're not finished here. You agreed to this interview, and my audience deserves to hear the truth. Miley laughs, but there's no humor in it. It's a bitter, sarcastic sound that cuts through the studio like a knife. Your audience? Your audience deserves better than watching you try to destroy someone for cheap entertainment. This isn't journalism, Jimmy. This is a hit job, and I'm not going to sit here and let you tear me apart for your ratings. The tension in the room reaches a breaking point as Jimmy finally stands up, facing her across his desk. Nobody's trying to destroy you, Miley, but if you can't handle basic questions about your own public statements, then maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews at all. Miley's composure completely shatters at this point. Her voice becomes louder, more intense, and you can see the raw emotion in her eyes. Basic questions? Are you kidding me right now? You've been attacking me from the moment I sat down, trying to make me look like a liar and a fraud. This isn't an interview, it's character assassination. The audience is completely silent now, but you can feel the electricity in the air, the sense that everyone present knows they're witnessing something that will be talked about for years to come. Some people are pulling out their phones, trying to capture this unprecedented moment, while others are simply staring in shock at the complete breakdown of civility happening before their eyes. Jimmy's voice becomes colder, more calculated. If telling the truth is character assassination, then maybe you need to take a long look in the mirror, Miley. My job is to ask the questions that other people are afraid to ask, and if that makes you uncomfortable, then maybe the problem isn't with my questions. Miley takes a step closer to his desk, her anger now fully unleashed. Your job. Your job is supposed to be entertaining people, not humiliating your guests. But I guess when your career starts declining, you have to find new ways to stay relevant, even if it means destroying other people in the process. The personal attack hits Jimmy like a slap in the face, and you can see his expression darken immediately. This is no longer just about contradictory statements or public accountability. This has become deeply personal, and both of them are now saying things that they can't take back. The professional boundaries that usually govern these interactions have completely disappeared, replaced by raw, unfiltered animosity. Jimmy's response comes quickly, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Declining career? That's rich coming from someone who's been desperately trying to reinvent herself every few years just to stay in the headlines. At least I don't have to shock people or create controversy to get attention. Miley's face goes red with rage, and she slams her hand down on his desk, the sound echoing through the stunned studio. How dare you? Everything I've done, every risk I've taken, has been about artistic growth and personal authenticity. I don't need to create fake controversy when people like you are perfectly willing to manufacture it for me. The situation has now escalated far beyond anything anyone in that studio could have anticipated, and it's becoming clear that this confrontation is heading toward an explosive conclusion that nobody will ever forget. The sound of Miley's hand hitting the desk reverberates through the studio like a gunshot, and in that moment, everyone realizes that this situation is about to explode completely out of control. Jimmy's face hardens as he stares at her across his desk, and you can see that her physical outburst has crossed a line that he's not willing to tolerate. "Don't you ever," Jimmy says, his voice low and dangerous, "put your hands on my desk like that again. This is my show, my studio, and if you can't conduct yourself with basic respect, then you can get out right now." Miley laughs again, that same bitter, incredulous sound that's been building throughout this entire confrontation. "Respect? You want to talk about respect? You've shown me nothing but disrespect from the moment I walked out here. You ambushed me, you attacked my character, and now you're trying to act like I'm the problem?" The audience is completely transfixed, watching this verbal warfare unfold with a mixture of horror and fascination. You can see people in the front rows actually leaning forward in their seats, afraid to miss a single word of this unprecedented meltdown. The camera operators are struggling to keep up, switching between close-ups of both combatants as they trade increasingly vicious barbs. Jimmy walks around his desk now, closing the distance between them, and his body language becomes more aggressive, more intimidating. "You know what your problem is, Miley? You've been surrounded by yes-men and enablers for so long that you can't handle it when someone actually challenges you. You come on these shows expecting everyone to kiss your feet and tell you how amazing you are, but the real world doesn't work that way." Miley doesn't back down an inch. If anything, she steps closer to him, matching his aggressive energy with her own. "My problem? My problem is dealing with washed-up comedians who think they can boost their own careers by tearing down people who are actually still relevant. When was the last time anyone talked about Jimmy Kimmel outside of moments like this?" The personal attacks are getting more brutal, more cutting, and you can see that both of them are now completely committed to destroying each other verbally. This has gone far beyond any professional disagreement or journalistic inquiry. This is pure, unfiltered hatred being broadcast live to millions of viewers. Jimmy's voice becomes venomous as he responds. At least I built my career on actual talent instead of riding my father's coattails and then shocking people with desperate stunts when the novelty wore off. You want to talk about relevance? Your last album barely made a blip on the charts. Miley's eyes blaze with fury and she takes another step toward him, her voice rising to a shout. Don't you dare bring my family into this. And don't you dare talk about my music like you know anything about artistry or creativity. You're nothing but a late-night hack who makes jokes about celebrities because you could never be one yourself. The studio erupts in gasps and murmurs as the audience realizes they're witnessing something that will probably never be allowed to air. People are pulling out their phones frantically, trying to capture this moment before security inevitably shuts it down. The energy in the room is electric, charged with the kind of tension that makes everyone feel like they're part of something historic, even if it's historically awful. Jimmy's composure finally cracks completely, and his professional facade disappears entirely. You know what, Miley? You're absolutely right about one thing. I am going to boost my career with this moment, because watching you have a complete meltdown on live television is going to be the most entertaining thing that's happened on this show in years. Miley's face goes white with rage, and for a moment, it looks like she might actually take a swing at him. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife, and everyone in that studio is holding their breath, waiting to see if this verbal assault is about to become physical. You disgusting, pathetic excuse for a human being, Miley screams, her voice echoing through the studio. You set me up, you ambushed me, and now you're gloating about it? This is exactly why people hate the media. Exactly why celebrities don't trust anyone in this business. You're a snake, Jimmy, and everyone watching this will see exactly what kind of person you really are. Jimmy spreads his arms wide, playing to the audience now, feeding off their shocked energy. Let them see. Let them see what happens when someone finally calls you out on your nonsense. You can dish it out, Miley, but you clearly can't take it when someone fights back. At this point, security personnel start moving toward the stage area, sensing that the situation is rapidly spiraling beyond anyone's control. But Miley notices them approaching and becomes even more agitated, realizing that she's about to be forcibly removed from the studio. Don't you dare have me escorted out like some kind of criminal, she shouts, pointing at Jimmy with a trembling finger. I'm leaving on my own terms, but not before I tell everyone exactly what kind of setup this was. You planned this whole thing, didn't you? You never intended this to be a real interview. You brought me here to humiliate me for your own sick entertainment. Jimmy doesn't deny it. In fact, he seems almost proud of what he's accomplished. I brought you here to get honest answers, and instead, I got to show my audience who you really are when the cameras are rolling and you can't control the narrative. Consider it a public service. Miley's voice becomes a roar of fury and frustration. Public service? You're a fraud, Jimmy. A complete and total fraud. You hide behind your desk and your writers and your prepared questions, but when it comes to real confrontation, real honesty, you're nothing but a coward who attacks people when they're vulnerable. The security team is now just a few feet away, clearly preparing to intervene if this escalates any further. Jimmy sees them approaching and seems to realize that his moment of triumph is about to end. So he decides to go for one final devastating blow. You know what, Miley? You're right about one thing. I am going to be talked about because of this. But you're going to be remembered as the celebrity who couldn't handle a few tough questions and had a complete meltdown on live television. That's going to be your legacy from tonight. Miley's response is immediate and explosive. My legacy? My legacy is decades of music, of artistic growth, of connecting with fans around the world. Your legacy is being a bottom feeder who destroys people for entertainment. We'll see who history remembers more kindly. She turns toward the audience then, addressing them directly, her voice still shaking with anger but becoming more controlled, more articulate. You all just witnessed something disgusting. You watched someone invite a guest onto their show with the sole purpose of humiliating them. This isn't entertainment, this is cruelty, and I hope every single person watching this remembers what they saw here tonight. Jimmy tries to get the last word, but Miley cuts him off. I'm done. I'm done with this show. I'm done with you, and I'm done pretending that this kind of behavior is acceptable in any professional setting. You want me gone? Fine. But don't think for 1 second that this makes you look good. This makes you look exactly like what you are, a bitter, desperate man who has to tear others down to feel relevant. With that, she storms off the stage, her heels clicking loudly on the studio floor, as security follows at a respectful distance, more to ensure her safe exit than to force her removal. The audience sits in stunned silence for several long moments, processing what they've just witnessed. Jimmy stands alone on his stage, looking somewhat shell-shocked himself, as if he's just realized the magnitude of what has transpired. The cameras continue rolling, capturing his expression as he tries to process the aftermath of this unprecedented confrontation. The studio remains eerily quiet as everyone tries to comprehend the fact that they've just witnessed one of the most explosive celebrity meltdowns in television history, a moment that will undoubtedly be dissected and analyzed for years to come. So there you have it, one of the most shocking moments in late-night television history. What did you think about this incredible confrontation? Did Jimmy go too far with his line of questioning, or was Miley completely out of line with her reaction? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to subscribe for more incredible stories like this one. What other celebrity confrontations would you like to see covered next?